Jets lose a second straight to open their 2019 campaign at home and prepare to limp it to Foxborough with their third-string QB. Injuries continue to pile up as new GM Joe Douglas makes several more moves to bolster the roster. And Jalen Ramsey wants out of Jacksonville. So will Douglas make his first big deal to give Jets fans some hope in this hour of despair? All this and more on Jets FM on the OFN for this Wednesday, the 18th of September, 2019. Brought to you by ourlads.com, providing the best New York Jets depth charts in the industry. And Athlon Sports, the leading publisher of preseason annuals for more than 50 years, sold in 60,000 outlets nationwide. Oh, Jan, I don't even know where to begin. Anyway, you know, we talk about injuries. When I prefaced my prediction at the beginning of the year by talking about injuries, and this is why. I mean, it's happened so much in my sports life with all of my teams that I guess I'm used to it. I don't know, but this is pretty bad. I haven't been through a situation like this in a while where we've been so excited. We haven't been this excited about a season in years. And then to have this happen so soon, man, that's one for the books.
Well, injuries are a fact of life in every sport, but especially the NFL. I mean, there's a reason why it stands for not for long, because the shelf life of a player isn't that long to begin with. And every team has injuries. The Patriots just lost a tackle. Carolina may be without their quarterback.
Dude, you are not comparing the Jets' injuries to the Patriots or anybody else right now, are you, please?
No. Hold on. I'm just stating that injuries are a fact of life in the NFL.
And then
is what basically helps good teams win when they have injuries. And you and I talked a lot about.
So this is the Jets' fault. They should be 2-0 now if they had good depth.
Are you done? Can I talk?
I don't know where you're going.
My comment to you is,
yes,
we talked a lot about that we thought the depth was improved this year, compared to years past.
It is.
Clearly, what's right, but clearly what we've seen is that while it's been improved, it's not at the level where it needs to be at, and that harkens back to the decisions made by the prior organization in terms of the GM building this roster for the 2019 season. Now, granted, we both came in with a lot of hope. Nobody expected Sam Darnold to have mono. He clearly admitted also that he played game one with mono, but even though he played game one with mono, I think you and I both believe that's a game they should have won.
Yeah, they win that game anyway. Yeah, if Mosley doesn't get hurt, they win the game.
You're 1-1, while things don't. And we both also figured that the beginning of the season was going to be very challenging, and that a 2-4 record in the first 6 games of the season was going to be more than likely, right? We would have been not happy.
Yeah.
We would have been okay with it. I think we both penciled in the Bills game as a win. I think we both said the Browns game was going to be difficult. And then you move on to the Patriots and the games that follow, and a 2-4 was a feasible and reasonable record,
which they could still
for the
attain.
Team. But very unlikely given the fact that your starting quarterback is out and your backup quarterback is out. And your starting linebacker is out.
It's one more game.
Who's the guy that drives it?
It's only one more game.
Right. I agree with you. But winning game one would have changed the mindset and the narrative a lot, because they would have at least entered the game against the Browns coming off a high, as opposed to blowing a 16-0 lead and entering it on a downer, and then having that downer augmented and piled on with Darnold's news in terms of the mono, sidelining him probably to at least week 5, and if we're lucky, week 5, but more than likely a couple of weeks beyond that. So, look, the NFL has injuries all over the place. Good teams rebound, bad teams or teams that are in the middle don't. I'm not saying that we are not more impacted any other team that's in the league based upon the type and the variety and the depth of the injuries that we have. But I also know that it's a factor, as we've seen before, have to basically adjust to not having their star players and having good backups, which is questionable in terms of what we have in terms of depth right now, especially in the offensive line. And there's no injuries really there. So that's not an injury issue. And then the defensive backfield, which I don't know if you can say is an injury issue either.
No, I'm not really. I don't think there's I don't think there was a problem in the game with the defensive backfield. I think the problems right now with the team are at wide receiver, and you throw in your third string quarterback. And really, to tell you the truth, I think with your starter out at quarterback, that to me was the only real excuse for the Cleveland game. I'm not even going to give Mosley and the others as an excuse. I think if Darnold plays that game, even with all the other injuries, I think that they should have won. They should have been able to be there at the end to try to beat that team, and I think they could have still, as long as Darnold was playing. When you take Darnold out, and then you throw a kid in there that's never played in the NFL before, and you throw all the injuries on there, then no, they're not supposed to win, not at this level. They're not the New England Patriots, even though I think if Jared Stidham was the quarterback and they had 5 or 6 other injuries, that game could have gone either way, because I'm still not going to say the Patriots would have lost, but that game could have gone either way, because that's just the way it is when you play a quarterback as young as Falk or Stidham. So that's the thing, the injuries, I don't even care about. It's really the thing that I'm upset about are things like, again, the wide receiver position is an issue. When Bellamy is playing like 3/4 of the snaps, it's not a good thing. They bring in Demaryius Thomas. Okay, maybe they'll get him to play sooner than later. Fine, we'll see how that goes. Herndon will be back in a couple of weeks. That's why when you said 2-4, and I said I think that is attainable, because they're going to be 0-3. So you go into the bye and you just hope upon hope that Sam Darnold is going to start right after the bye. If that happens, and Mosley is back by then, which he will be, and Quinnen Williams, and so forth, and you can win Game 4, then you're in a decent shape, because you get your suspended guys back, Herndon, Copeland, and so forth, and you kind of maybe can get a little momentum going where even if you go 1-1 after that, you're 2-4. So I still think we can go 2-4, even if they start 0-3, as long as they get everybody back after the bye.
Well, it's funny. If you look at that game, they were in that game.
Yeah, they were. Exactly.
Greg Williams did a very good job, in my opinion, of creating a scheme that created havoc for Baker Mayfield and making life difficult for him.
Uh-huh.
The score was 16-3. You've lost Simeon. You have 4th and 2 at the 12-yard line.
Right.
Let me rephrase that. 3rd and 2. Here, my opinion is you have a rookie quarterback. Run the ball.
Oh, come on. Let's not go into play calling. I'm not going into play calling.
Fine. Greg, you and I will disagree all the time on play calling, and I'm sorry it has an impact. It does have an impact.
Okay. Can we move on now? All right. Your point made.
And then obviously the next play after the 4th and 2, right? Boomed, a slam pattern, Beckham, 89-yard touchdown, and game over. But at that point, despite everything else that had gone on surrounding them and swirling around, they had an opportunity to make it 16-10.
Sure.
And with a little more than a quarter left, you have no idea what's going to happen in that game. Now, I don't think they necessarily would have won, but they clearly would have been in a position to have an opportunity to win that game, based upon now you're a 1-score game, your defense for the most part is doing a good job of holding down an offense that should be fairly good. Now, granted, they lost their tight end in Njoku, which had an impact on them because it removes a weapon, being evaluated for concussion as well, so he missed some time.
Yeah, like we care.
But you look at Landry and you look at Beckham, and those guys made plays throughout. Beckham with the one-handed catch in the first half on great coverage by Hairston, but he made a phenomenal play that a wide receiver can make, and the touchdown. And then you also had a couple of plays on 3rd and 20, right before the half, where he hit Landry for like a 30-yard play that also led to another 3 points. And give credit to the skilled players of the Browns for making plays when they had to. But in my opinion, I thought Greg did a good job, even though the pass rush was lacking at best, and that's putting it mildly.
And Jenkins gets hurt. And right now he's one of our better pass rushers, so that doesn't make life easy. Look, they add Jordan Willis. We talked about Kyle Phillips. They added John Franklin Myers a couple of weeks ago. I think we saw a little bit more input from defensive linemen because Phillips played a little bit more. I would hope maybe it takes to after the bye for Williams to start going more to a 4-3 and letting his defensive linemen play more, because they got some talent up front now. Now, whether this kid Willis, who I loved coming out of college, this kid had a lot of good tools to work with, just didn't work out. at Cincinnati. So I'm hoping that a couple of these kids can stick and help their defense out because they desperately need it. But having Quinn and Williams out is just a bummer as a fan. I mean, come on. I mean, I hope this kid plays. I'm sick and tired of this stuff happening to us all the time. If it doesn't happen this week, we know he'll be back after the bye, but hopefully we get him back as well. And after a pretty decent defensive performance, considering the defensive players we've had out, that's a promising sign.
Well, first, it's a bummer not having him. And second, it gets augmented for the fan base when you see what Ed Oliver has done so far. Right? And we had a lot of conversations at the time of the draft is with all the rumors surrounding Oliver, would Oliver be the guy that the Jets went after, or would they go after Williams? And Williams is to a certain extent missing an opportunity to impress and also missing an opportunity to hopefully help the other Williams who has struggled in terms of the workload that he has to make an impact. And I don't think he played poorly, but he clearly hasn't had the impact that both of us hoped he would have. And maybe he's not the one who can be the bell cow in terms of the defensive lineman and the surrounding pieces around him to be able for his skill set to come through. But he's also in a contract year and looking to get a big deal and isn't doing much to help himself so far. So all of these have downstream impacts. And then, as you mentioned, Copeland with the suspension, Mosley being out. You look at the defensive backfield, which didn't play poorly, but you have the issues with Jamal Adams right now that he's clearly not happy with everything that's going on. And you're starting to get down the trickle-down impact of when things go downhill, they go down quickly. And when they start to steamroll, they start to roll quickly. And if they're not careful, this thing's going to get completely out of control before too long. Look, we all expect a loss this week. The only question is to how bad that loss is going to be. But come after the bye week, there needs to be a change in the mindset with this team, or else this season's going to spiral quickly.
Well, look, I think I didn't go into this season thinking and getting excited. Remember I talked about how I liked the look of the team. I thought that the players that they had on this team were more capable of handling adversity. You're talking about a lot of guys that are considered team captains. Even Le'Veon Bell, I think, has been fantastic when it comes to being a professional. So I think they have the right guys in the locker room to deal with this adversity. Now, we'll find out. I'm not going to speculate if they go 0-5. If they do, we'll talk about it then. But I don't think there's any issue at this point. The Jamal Adams thing got carried away. We saw how instantly it did. Should he be upset? Sure, of course he's upset. He wants to win. But you know what? Maybe you should also play a little bit better too. He was taken out of the game, and I thought he was taken out of the game for the right reason, because he was trying to do too much. And when you try to do too much, penalties come. You got a penalty. The game was pretty much over anyway. You don't want him going 100 million miles an hour trying to make up for something that's lost already, and then you get hurt. So I didn't mind that Adams got out. Let's talk about the positive in the secondary, and that is the fact that Hairston did play well. I think overall, considering he's only been there for a few weeks, the kid, maybe this is somebody that could help the secondary, and I think he can. So the big question then comes, what do they do with Tremaine Johnson? And I honestly don't – the odds are I believe that he's never going to play again for this team. That's my feeling as of today. Now, it could change. He could be out there on Sunday. I would wager that Joe Douglas is working very hard to figure out how to get rid of him. And I have to believe he's also trying very hard to get Jalen Ramsey.
So let me tackle all three of those things. Hairston played well until obviously he got hurt. I like Hairston from what I've seen, but I will reserve judgment because it's 1 week.
Sure.
Let's see.
Good start.
Let's see if he can build on this and have several weeks in a row where he plays at a, I wouldn't say top level, but a strong level.
Good number
before
two.
Before I start to buy in on it. Right.
Sure.
Number two in terms of Johnson, the deal is a 5-year, $72.5 million deal. In essence, based upon the guaranteed money, it's 3 years, $45 million, with the last 2 years not necessarily guaranteed. So the key is obviously this year and next year, because it's the guaranteed money. For them to be able to move him, it's going to be very difficult unless Douglas eats an inordinate amount of money, and I'm not quite sure if that makes sense. And B, if you waive him, you have the dead cap space. So I don't necessarily know if that's the case. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Douglas can either move him this year or even next year based upon the way the deal is constructed. And lastly, in terms of Ramsey, look, I love Jalen Ramsey. personally, I think is a little bit of a head case. I'm not quite sure if
He
there'll be
is.
big enough. I'm not sure if there'll be a big enough stadium in terms of the egos
Sure.
between him and Adams. I'm not giving up a first rounder because if the season does go in a direction where we think it's possible it can go in, look, we all think that the second half of the season should be better than the first
It's
half.
not
But there's
about
no
wait,
guarantee.
you ain't trading for Jalen
There's
Ramsey for
there-
this season. You're trading for Jalen
I know
Ramsey to
you're
be
giving,
around for
are
5
you
years.
Giving up, right, but giving up a number one pick that could be a high pick
Sure.
next year is very difficult to do, especially when you and I both think that this year they're not going anywhere this year in terms of their record.
Well, that's the thing.
And if you're going to give, and if you're going to give
Well,
up
what do
a
you
very
think?
high
What do you
pick,
think their
I'd be
pick is
very
going to be?
reluctant.
What do you think their pick is going to be next year? And let's say it is in the top 10.
Could be top 10.
Yeah, No. What is it going to be? What position?
Let's say 8.
No. What position are they going to go after?
Oh, I think they're going to go for an offensive lineman.
Okay, they're going to go. And wouldn't they also think about a corner?
Yes, potentially, but I think what you've seen.
We don't know. Yeah, I know, but we don't know if there's going to be an offensive line. I'm just saying, we don't know. It could be.
Right. I'm assuming
there
that
could
the
be one
scouts right now
lineman
have
available.
identified.
He gets taken. Then there's a corner sitting there, and the Jets take him. So the question then is, would you rather have a rookie first-round corner that you know nothing about in the NFL level, or would you rather pay someone that could be the best corner in the league? Head case, yes. Take a chance on that. That's the decision that they have to make. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that that's what that's what they're thinking about, and that's what they have to outweigh is whether or not it's worth. Because it's all we know. The kid's more talented. If he wasn't a head case, we wouldn't even be having this debate.
I agree, but look, we talked about it a lot last year, right? We both would have gone after Khalil Mack because finding a pass rusher is almost an impossibility.
Yes.
To me, I think it may be easier sometimes finding a quarterback. Cornerback, let me say, not easy, but easier than finding somebody who rushes the passer. And going after Mack last year, to me, I would have given up the first-round pick. I don't think I have the same view of giving up the first round to go get Ramsey.
All right, and I don't know. It could be that apparently Jacksonville is asking for an awful lot, which is why he probably hasn't been traded yet. Because if Minkah Fitzpatrick is going to go for a first-round draft pick,
that's crazy. I thought that deal was nuts.
As soon as that happened, I was like, well, that just ruined any chance for like the Jets to give up just a first-round draft pick for Ramsey. So that's the thing. You're now going to have to give up more than a first-round draft pick for Ramsey. Now, what that would be, a first and a third, a first and a significant player, I have no idea. Look, we'll find out if the deal is made. I'm not going to be unhappy if they acquire Jalen Ramsey. Let's just put it that way. I'm not going to sit there the next week and go, man, I'm bummed out we have Jalen Ramsey. But if it happens, then we'll have a lot to debate based on the compensation and whether or not he can be a guy that we can count on. Because
you talked about it, right? We talked about first-round picks, right? So if willing to give up a first-round pick in a season where no Ben, no Bell, no Brown, right? And losing Ben has a major impact, as good as you may think Mason Rudolph could be. You and I both, I think that Pittsburgh is in a whole heap of trouble this year based upon what we've seen to date and what could happen down the road.
Could be a top 10 pick.
To me, put it this way, and I wouldn't be, first of all, in general, I don't know if I'd give up a first-rounder for Fitzpatrick. Secondly, I don't know if I'd give up a top 10 pick to go get Minkah Fitzpatrick.
No. That trade was I can't even believe they made that deal. Everybody knows when you trade. Look what happened with Josh Rosen. As soon as this past offseason, it was like, whoa, I can't believe that the Cardinals were able to get a second-round pick for him because everybody thought he was going to be a third or a fourth rounder when he was drafted in the first round. Mm-hmm. So it's like, how does that – so you would think that Fitzpatrick, which was a top 15 draft pick, would have been, okay, an early second at the highest. So that's why I was saying I think the thing – and I don't care about the Steelers or the Dolphins. I just cared about how that's going to impact the Jets trade if they were thinking about making one with Ramsey, because I could just see Jacksonville going, well, look, they got a first rounder, potentially top 15 pick for Fitzpatrick. Well, what do you think? We want a first round and something. So we'll see. I don't know if that deal is going to be made because it's going to take up an awful lot of money as well. And I know the Jets can figure that out. Let's move on to the receiver situation. Anderson played a little bit better in the second half, so that after a bad first half like the rest of the team, so that was good to see. But in general, it's now official with Enunwa out and with Herndon's injury. this receiving core just lacks major depth now. The Enunwa injury just has decimated the depth just like that on the team. And this becomes a much-needed position that they have to go out and do something about. Finally, we've been waiting for them to use a pick over the last few years, a significant pick at the receiver position. Now they're going to have to do it soon, or they're going to have to sign a significant free agent.
Well, the word significant is key. They've used picks, but unfortunately, all the guys they've picked, Hampson and Stewart and everybody else that they picked, hasn't necessarily panned out.
Yeah.
I mean, none of them are on the team anymore.
Yeah, first round.
Right. So you look at it. I mean, look, Anderson's going to have to step up his game. He finally did a little bit in the second half. You look at Bellamy dropped a key ball right over the middle on a pass that should have been completed. It was ridiculous that he didn't complete it.
Yeah.
I mean, right in his hands, drops it. I'm starting to wonder, honestly, if you want to show a spark, and as crazy it may be, get Dortch on the field. Let him run in the slot. Let him run some patterns. Maybe try to create some space. They need to do something that excites the offense. Or Berrios. Yeah, either one do something so you can create a little excitement. Because right now it's very vanilla in terms of the offense, and Bell's going to run down because everybody's keying on him, and they have no reason to skew their defense to worry about anybody else.
And by the way, I thought Falk, as crazy as it seems, and I know Trevor only had a small sample size, but Falk actually looked more comfortable than Simeon by the time the game was over. Maybe not a surprise since he's been around Gase and he knows the system. Look, he's not a rookie, so he's second year. He had a lot of production at a Pac-12 passing school like Washington State. Look, it's as a fan, we can just hope that he plays well. I kind of have a good feeling that he's not going to embarrass himself. It's just now up to the rest of the team, and that's where's the problem on Monday night. I don't think Falk was a reason they necessarily lost. The team in other aspects just didn't play well. We can sit there and blame Beachum. Now, let's just talk about one thing, though. Those 2 sacks that he had with inside the 5-yard line were both Luke Falk's fault. But he was pressured and sacked a few other times where the offensive line was terrible. And we just – well, look, this is what happens. When all these things occur, the injuries, this, that, especially the injuries, then the microscope goes on things like the offensive line when we were hoping not to have to put a microscope on the offensive line until midway through the season. Now everything comes out that's a weakness, and you want to look at the offensive line and say it's terrible. You still got to give the offensive line a little bit of time. But they got to get better, and I'm not sure that's going to happen this week against the Patriots, who, by the way, are looking to tie the record trying to become the first team to start the season with 3 straight games without giving up a touchdown. And if they give up 9 points or less, they're going to break the record for fewest points allowed in the first 3 games of the season. So they might be able to attain both of those records on Sunday.
Clearly what you thought when the season started and the questions about their defense as a whole. So, look, a couple things. I don't think the offensive line played particularly well. You can say Beachum wasn't bailed out by Falk. I don't think Beachum played particularly well. There's some rumors that he was dealing with an injury. My bigger issue in terms of that is, A, why aren't you rolling Ryan Griffith over to that side and give Beachum some help? Or B, hey, here's a hint. There's a guy on your bench that was drafted because he is a blocking tight end. You might want to use him a little bit to help Beachum to be able to block Garrett, who basically manhandled him most of the night. Ryan Khalil is still settling in. He hasn't looked good. We talked about that when he was signed, that whether or not you believe Pro Football Focus, their grades or not, he did not grade out particularly well last year, and he hasn't looked good at all so far. Now, part of that you hope is just rust and him settling in, but unless we see something, let's say the week after the bye week, then I'd start to be really concerned. It wouldn't shock me if you see a swap and see Harrison start a little bit. In terms of the Patriots, I don't see the Jets keeping this game close. Look, I'd love to be wrong. I just don't see it given how good the Patriots are, and then given how much the Jets really need to upgrade the talent level from what we've seen and what exists on the field right now. So if this game is close, I would consider it a mild victory, especially given the 22.5-point spread.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any Jet fans are thinking that this game means anything other than let's not get embarrassed. That's why I was saying I have faith that Falk is going to do okay. It's up to the rest of the team The offensive line, the receivers, the penalties are also getting ridiculous. Especially, all of a sudden we're dealing with penalties right one after another on special teams again. Nothing annoys me or any sports fan more, or any NFL fan more than that are the constant penalties, especially when you're fair catching or the ball's kicked in the end zone and you get a holding penalty. So those are the things that have got to be corrected if they're going to have any chance when they have injuries to other key players, especially a quarterback.
There's lots of holes on this team that we've seen so far that we're hoping would be, trying to think of the right word, would be covered up by the play of Sam Darnold and some of the other players, that these gaps that we knew that would need to be fixed in the future, you're hoping they would be glossed over, because what you would see out of Darnold, what you would see out of some of the other players, and they would enable them for the games that you might be considered a major underdog, or a game that you're to toss them game, that you could have the edge over the opponent at quarterback and therefore get wins that you didn't expect to get, or even win games that you should win. Now with Darnold out or playing under the weather as he did in game one, those areas of weakness sort of come to the forefront.
Jets have been swept the last 3 years by the Patriots. They've been swept 10 times since Bill Belichick has been the head coach of the Patriots. And a couple of things. I'm happy for Devin Smith. It's one of those things where, as a Jet fan, you go, of course he's healthy now.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. But you got to feel happy for Devin Smith. And did you notice who the I think it was the NFC Defensive Player of the Week was? No, the AFC no, wait, what was it? AFC or NFC? It was one of the players of the week on defense. Yeah, it was NFC. And he happened to play on Thursday night.
Okay.
You know? Shaquille Barrett.
Yep.
What have we been saying for the last 2 years with this guy? And by the way, you know who's coaching him? Todd Bowles. That's like, oh, okay. So you couldn't figure out a way to get him with the Jets? Yep. And now you got him here in Tampa Bay.
He was a free agent. Tampa made a brilliant signing in terms of, was it, I think, a 1 year, $3 or $4 million deal he signed?
How does that happen when teams like the Jets are desperate for pass rushers, and we here talking for the last 2 years about this kid, and you don't go out and get this kid for $3 or $4 million?
Well, you can blame the GM.
Well, again, Douglas wasn't able to get him. So, yes, I guess that's one of the things where
Douglas wasn't here.
That's what I'm saying. So he wasn't able to get him. So now, see, that's why I just get the feeling that I'm going to give it a 40% chance that Jalen Ramsey is a Jet in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
What do you give it?
20.
Okay.
At best.
I think Douglas is going to. I think he's dying to put his stamp on this team because he's yet to do it.
I agree. I would be, but again, I would pursue a pass rusher first if one ever became
that's not going to happen. All right. Jan, sounds good. Next week we got to wrap up the Patriot game and go into the bye. So
yeah, well, we can't lose the week after.
That's a good thing, I guess. Yeah, you're right. Good point.
That's unfortunately where we're at right now.
That is where we're at.
And the hope is that everybody comes back healthy that following week. That
is the main thing. Yes, I hope, because I don't know if Mosley or Williams are going to play this week, but if they don't, then let's hope everybody's back in time for the Eagles. So that's it. Jan, appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you again next week.